Hey everybody, it's Josh Rutledge, your co-host for FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us more, please head over to our website, FearScapePodcast.com. There you can click on store and browse some really awesome t-shirts and maybe pick a couple up, or even go to our Patreon page and see how you can support us monthly. We love bringing you awesome content just as much as you like listening to it. Enjoy the show.
Hello. I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you brought your blanket to hide under. The spooky crew is going to discuss things and events from other realms. Ghosts, cryptids, aliens. Be sure to hold your blanket extra tight as the boys take you deep into the FearScape.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another wonderful, frightening, and spooky edition of FearScape.
Hey, everybody.
Upper body. My name is Stefan Gearhart. I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by my frighteningly good-looking host, Josh Rutledge.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I'm frightening because I'm so good looking, or it's frightening the fact that I am good looking.
It's like looking at a solar eclipse, man. It's like you shouldn't, but you just gotta.
This guy's got a voice for radio.
But yeah, we've got a cool show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about one of the most hotly debated alien sightings of all time, in my opinion, especially within the paranormal community. And it is Stan Romanek and his alien videos and his alien sightings. Some of the things that happened to him, phone calls and things like that, are things you might hear that have happened in Mothman and things like that. And he claims very deeply, and these videos are hotly debated.
Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you, the first time I saw the first Peekaboo video, it scared me to death.
Well, don't get me wrong, they're scary, but I don't know. I'm a strong skeptic line on this one.
Yeah, for sure. But we're going to get moving. But before we get to spooky news and stuff, I want to introduce a new segment. It's not even a segment. It's just a psychic friend of mine that passed away last year, and I think I talked about it on the show. Her name was Barb. She gifted me some tarot cards, but she also gifted me this book, and I finally broke it out of storage and thought, man, we need to use this. This book is called the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary, and in it is literally just a giant book, and you can see it's got 869 pages. I mean, it's filled with words of just psychic and paranormal like stuff, phenomenon. And so each week I'm gonna read one word and kind of let everybody know what it means. And I do this at random. Like, I'm just gonna flip through and I'll check them off so we don't do the same thing. But today I just flipped it and landed on page 305, which is the letter I, and the word that drew my eye was emotive consciousness. And in parentheses is astral projection. So this says that emotive consciousness, an astral projection stopped due to fear. The astral body projects to the horizontal position, lowers itself to the standing position, becomes rigid, unable to release itself from the cataleptic state, and withdraws into the physical body without taking the trip.
So like your thing you shared a few weeks back with your
yeah, that's what I was
night
wondering.
hags with where you were like, you're kind of floating and you're looking back, and that would have been a very good example of fear.
Well, because one of the things I said is that I couldn't move. I wasn't going. I was stuck looking at myself, and so that tells me that I was indeed emotive.
You didn't really transfer to the standing position. You stayed floating above your body,
and then I fell back in essentially. So I would say at least the emotive. I mean, essentially, it's like. I mean, that was part of that. So, yeah, very cool. We're going to be visiting one of those all the time, and then if we feel like it, we might do too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, very cool book. Rest in peace, Barb. I'm sure she's here listening. But yeah, today, like I said, we're going to be talking about Stan Romanek. But before we get into that, let's get into a little bit of spooky news. So this week on Spooky News, I've got two things. I've got a goofy one, and then I've got a number of different things, but I'm going to do one that's time sensitive.
Okay.
So the first one I'm going to do first is just a fun one. So I'm a Doctor Who fan, big Doctor Who fan, and Jodie Whittaker, who is playing the new Doctor Who, in an interview was asked if she believed in aliens, and she said, "I believe in aliens 100%."
No room for error.
No room for error. She really talks a lot about it. What she says is, because they ask her, like, you know, what are things you believe in? She says, I'm agnostic. She says, I'm spiritual and I believe in the energy of beings and I believe in aliens 100%. I mean, come on, it can't just be us. I don't know if we've had contact, but we are aliens to someone. Yeah. Beyond our linear time and history and galaxy, there has to be life in a way that maybe we can't even pinpoint as life. So pretty astute for an actress, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this coming from me, I'm an actor, so.
I'm not an actor, but I play one on the radio.
But I play one on TV. But no, I love her. She has such a great energy. I love watching the new show. But yeah, I really loved that. I love when actors come out, especially someone on a sci-fi show.
So when I saw, I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl this past weekend, but there was like a Walmart episode where they had all this pop culture reference. And a telephone booth shot down. And I'm like, oh, it's a Doctor Who reference. And then instead, like, Bill and Ted step out of it.
Right, yeah. There's always been joked that Bill and Ted was the Americanized version. I mean, police box versus phone booth. But, yeah. And then, of course, with Bill and Ted 3 coming out, I'm really excited about it. So it should be fun. But the other one, the reason I said I want to jump on this now instead of some of the other stories I have is that very shortly, the British X-Files, in quote, of UFO sightings are about to go public.
Oh.
So the UK's Ministry of Defence will publish secret UFO reports for the first time. This comes from livescience.com. From the early 1950s until 2009, a department in the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense documented and investigated reports of UFOs. So this was essentially their Project Blue Book.
Right.
Okay. Now, more than a decade after the program ended, many of those formerly classified files about UFO sightings will be made available to the public for the first time. Previously, some of these files about UFOs had been published online at the UK National Archives website. However, all of the agency's UFO reports will be released this year on a dedicated gov.uk webpage. So this will be for anyone in the world to be able to go see.
I mean, this is pretty cool that they're actually standing up a website for the purpose of releasing it.
It is. And this is coming from a spokesperson at the British Royal Air Force. This is what he told The Telegraph. The decision came after PA Media, a British news agency, filed a request for the UFO files under the Freedom of Information Act, according to The Telegraph. MOD officials decided it would be better to publish these records rather than continue sending documents to the National Archives. Which there was something that I had watched recently. I was watching on Prime. I was just looking up UFO documentaries and stuff. And there was one that was these guys were in England. They were on an Air Force base there.
Huh.
And they have not been believed forever. And that they're looking forward to this. And that's what, every time they would look for any information, they would get sent to the National Archives. And the archives would say, oh, well, you need to go to the Royal Air Force Base. And it would just be this loop.
Well, you know what's really interesting to me about all of this is that it's almost like they understand that the resources that it takes to fill out or to complete one of these Freedom of Information Acts, like for the onesie-twosie, is more of a draw or a strain on the budget than it would be to just to stand up a website and release everything for everybody to sift through.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's just way easier.
It becomes a budgetary concern almost that do we really want somebody going and one person or two people pulling all these files for every request, or do we just want to make it all available?
Yeah. Well, and I would not be surprised with the recent Navy stuff that came out that they kind of felt a little pressured themselves. But this continues on. It says the UK's fascination with UFOs spiked around 1950, prompting the MOD to form the Flying Saucer Working Party to address the phenomenon, according to the UK National Archives. UFOs in the early 1950s even captured the attention of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who sent a memo to his air minister in 1952 asking, "What does all this stuff about flying saucers amount to? What can it mean, and what is the truth?"
Huh.
The Flying Saucer Group concluded that UFOs were hoaxes, delusions, or ordinary objects that were misidentified, recommending that no further investigation of reported mysterious aerial phenomena be undertaken. Nevertheless, other MOD divisions continued to work on official UFO investigations in the UK, ushering such efforts into the 21st century. However, the last UFO report to be published online by the MOD dates to 2009, covering sightings that took place from January through the end of November of that year.
Wow.
These included a silver disc-shaped light reported in January of 2009, up to 20 orange and red glowing lights, a large bright silver-white ball or sphere, and 3 blazing gold orbs in a diagonal line in the sky. After MOD enacted a policy change on December 1st, 2009, the agency no longer recorded or investigated UFO sightings according to the report. But what they did find, including many recent UFO reports that were previously available only as hard copies, will be published online within the next few months, said Nick Pope, a former UFO investigator for the MOD. There should be some interesting nuggets in these new files, Pope said.
Huh. That is really, I mean, you know, we've talked about it before. About, I mean, are we on the verge of just like everything coming out?
Yeah.
You know, with the introduction of the Freedom of Information Act and everything, that, you know, now it's becoming, you know, I guess more difficult for governments of the world to that have such a policy to just turn a blind eye to those requests.
Right. Well, and then even then, I mean, those, I can already hear the government conspiracists out there saying, they're still only letting us know the things they think we want to know. Yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, it's, and that's probably true. There's probably the box with the crystal skull and the all that kind of stuff in Area 51 somewhere. But I mean, you know, I was talking to somebody about this today, about the fact that, you know, I think that there are things in really for us to swing our thought process as a human race, to stop thinking about ourselves as individual pockets of people, to really start thinking about ourselves as a human race, would be the concrete, solid introduction of truth or existence of intelligent life that is visiting or has visited the Earth.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, we're all reading, because, you know, in a few weeks we're going to be covering Indrid Cold, and so we've been reading up on Woody Derenberger's book, Visitors from Lanulus.
Yep.
And it's interesting the way this small-town redneck, red state voter hick talks about this utopia that Lanulus is, right? And how he has that same dream for Earth. It's really, really interesting to hear.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to the episode, but there's also a lot of similarities between the society for Lanulus and what's described in Star Trek.
Yeah.
By Picard in First Contact. So it almost makes you wonder if the writers for Star Trek had read Visitors from Lanulus.
Well, I mean, no, I don't know. when Star Trek came out in what, 63?
Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't think that. So it did. It came out in 64, I believe.
Because I think like Woody came out with his stuff in 63. I think when he started saying that when he was on the news. No,
that was. I think it was 67, 68.
Was it a little bit later?
Yeah, because it was around the same time is the whole Mothman thing, which started in 66. So Star Trek would have been out for some period of time, but I don't think, and the true Trekkies out there are probably going, you're not a Trekkie, but because we don't know the actual dates. But
yeah, it was 1966 to 1967 for Mothman. And first sighting of Indrid Cold. This says 75, but I know that's wrong.
Not wrong. That's right.
This is a bad website.
But I mean, I think it was around the same timeline as Mothman. But I mean, regardless, there is some overlap with that in Star Trek. But I don't remember in the original series that it was described, the society that the Federation existed within was described to the level that it was by Picard in First Contact.
Oh yeah,
so
not at all.
The fact that humanity works to better themselves,
and you can even
and all that kind
see
of stuff.
that in the old episodes,
Right.
like that a lot of that's not really there.
So
and that's really explored, of course, in Enterprise, right?
So I mean, my whole point is that it's very possible that Visitors from Lanulos as a book, or potentially the writers had an encounter of their own with a Lenlosian that would maybe have influenced their decision on including it.
The reason I was trying to look up the date, because, if that's absolutely true, if that was the case, would be really cool, because I would have done that kind of research, right? I would have looked up sci-fi books, and guess what? Woody's book's going to show up in sci-fi as well as nonfiction, because it definitely skirts the line.
Right, exactly.
But we will talk about Indra
we'll
Cold
get to
in
that
a few
in a couple
weeks.
weeks.
We're going to have Santosh, David Smith come on. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be talking about that. But so let's just jump right into Creepy Catch-Up.
Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Y'all, it's creepy.
Yep. So I have some that just happened last night. Do you have any?
I have something. So if you follow us, we've been off for about 2 weeks. You were sick and some things like that. That's why we put out an archive episode from the Mammoth Cave, which is really cool. But anyways, so we've had a long time. So I haven't had anything this week, but the week prior I did. So I'll tell you mine. Mine goes really quick.
Okay.
I had told you, I had texted you one day, and I said, remind me to tell you about the mystery flusher.
Yeah.
So I am at Olive Garden. We're celebrating my niece's birthday, and I have to use the restroom, as I normally do, since I had surgery, weight loss surgery. I tend to have to use the restroom pretty frequently. And I'm in there, and I see feet kind of moving around and stuff in the stall next to me. I usually try not to use the handicap stall, like always, unless it's not
the only
open,
one available,
or it's the clean one. But I'm sitting there and there's somebody in there, and it starts moving. It flushes, right? And I kind of see out of the corner. I'm not really paying attention because I'm on my phone, and then I kind of see it go back. It flushes again. I'm like, man, he must have had a goose egg.
Yeah, really.
Right? And then no one comes out of the door. I don't see feet under there anymore. And then a guy walks in and goes into that stall. I only see one set of feet. He uses the restroom, and it flushes. He leaves. I see his feet move. I'm taking a good long one.
Yeah.
Because I actually wasn't feeling good. I was afraid I was going to throw up, too. But anyway, so, I'm watching this guy, and then the bathroom gets empty again, and the toilet flushes. And then it flushes again a few minutes later.
Huh. Well,
and so finally I finish up, and I get done, and I go in there, and I'm trying to wave at it to try to make it to go. I'm like, maybe it's malfunctioning. Yeah. Nothing. Right? I'm in there. I'm moving around. Nothing. I kind of stand outside. I wait. Nothing. And as I'm leaving the bathroom, I hear my toilet flush. And I was like, okay, we're done. And I scooted out of there.
That's crazy.
So whatever trickster ghost was messing with me in the bathroom. And that is a sacred place. Okay. It is a sacred place, but it was enough to give me the spookies. You know,
you don't talk to the guy next to you at the urinal. No. You don't flush the guy's toilet next to you in the cubicle. It just,
if it was simply the flush, I would still even question it. But I can recall seeing feet the first time. And I never heard that door unlatch. And in fact, the truth of the matter is I thought it was weird because I remember seeing the door was open. When I first came in, I saw that the door was open. So I thought it was weird the guy was pooping with his door open. But maybe the latch doesn't work,
Maybe he's a free thinker. So.
Yeah. So that's my spookiness. I mean, I had my big one. It's been 2 weeks.
Since the dream?
Yeah. We have not talked about
No, we haven't.
Here. Okay, so I'm going to let you talk about yours because I'm going to pull it up so I can just read from it.
Yeah, read. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so mine has it kind of dropped off a little bit because, and I don't know, it's really weird. like I was reading or listening to the audiobook Visitors from Lanyulos, and while I was doing that, and it took about 4 days because I listened to it on the way back and forth from work, all activity dropped off. Like it's like no activity in the house, nothing at night when I was dreaming, nothing. I finished up the book yesterday, activity again. So it's just like the ghosts are like, yeah, that book's a little too,
It's a little too weird. Or, I mean, the Lanyulosians are all about positivity and goodness, right?
Well,
so,
yeah.
Maybe.
But, I mean, you cleansed my house.
I did.
So there's, that should all be all that's there. But anyway.
Interesting. I was talking to my friend Cindy. She was there as well when you came out to the store where I was reading tarot.
Yep.
And I was talking to her about everything, and we had talked about how we were worried that things were still looking in your window because I didn't think to do the perimeter of the house. I simply did the house. And she was like, well, yeah. She's like, they like looking in.
Well, and then you saw the humanoid in the backyard.
Yeah.
That night.
I did. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned that on here either because that was the last time I left.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So one quick thing was when I was leaving, you've always felt like something was in your backyard and things like that. And when I left, it was dark. And I felt something, and it wasn't back deep in the woods. It was like a quarter of the way up your yard from the woods. Huh. And it was a silhouette. I'm still not sure, but I mean, it looked tall. It was a big, tall thing. Possible antlers, I don't know, but it definitely was not a deer.
I mean, we do get deer in our backyard.
Right, and I know the difference. Okay. This was taller than that. I mean, it was... And it was long. There was no back end to it or anything like that. And I could see arms, right? So there were arms and legs. Deer don't have arms.
Yeah.
And I felt it watching me, Like, it was creepy. And I just kind of scooted on. I didn't feel scared, but I just felt uneasy. Yeah. I didn't feel like it was evil or anything like that.
So anyway, the activity picked back up. And so last night when I went to bed, I was, I've been, as per your guidance, I've kind of envisioned myself protected and like a grounded in a cocoon or of energy or whatever, and only positive things can get in. Mm-hmm. And I'm laying there and I'm trying to, I immediately feel like, okay, tonight's going to be something. Like I'm going to have activity. Like it's like just the previous nights. When I was laying there and doing it, I knew that I wasn't going to get anything. But tonight and last night, I knew that I was going to get something. So I'm laying there, and I focus on your name. And, in reading the Visitors from Lanyulos, one of the things they talk about is that everybody can learn how to do telepathy, and here's how you do it, and all that kind of stuff. So I tried that, right? Mm-hmm. So in my eyes are closed, so like it's hard to say I'm seeing it, but I'm not actually seeing it with my eyes, right? It's right. The images are forming in my mind, if you will, and I'm seeing your the living room of the house that you're in now. And so I'm seeing the couch that you're sitting on, and I'm seeing the thing that's kind of across the way from the couch, and the desk, and the piano and everything. And in that kind of that, it wasn't really a dream, but it's like in that vision. I called out to you and I said, I'm going to give you a number. And I said the number was, in my mind, I said the number was 24. Now, when I got here tonight, I said, hey, I'm going to ask you, pick a random number between 1 and 50. And what was the number you said?
42.
Which is the exact flip of the number that I gave you.
And I said I do have some slight dyslexia.
So yeah, but I mean, it's just that was just the coincidental piece there.
Well, so. And then, like you said, you got here and you'd not been here before. You might have been here 20 years ago when we were kids. But
right.
Even I didn't remember the first time I came back. You came in and you were like, yep, this is what I saw. And to the point where you said you had even saw a plaid blanket on the couch. And I happen to have a plaid blanket sitting over on the couch for the cat because she's been trying to dig in between the cushions. So I put that there so she just sleeps on it.
So, I mean, it was just very odd. Mm-hmm. And so I'll continue to try that at night and see, maybe we can make a connection.
What happens. Yeah, I'll try too. I've been a little, David and, Santosh and I used to call it witch mail when we used to try to speak to one another.
Huh. But yeah, so that's my creepy catch-up. So your big one.
Yep. So yeah, my big one. So this was crazy. So I had a dream the other night, actually last week, I guess.
Well, it started with you.
Right, I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
But because I was reading through what I had sent you and Santosh, and I realized that it seemed a little off, so I'm just kind of pre-explaining.
Okay.
So there's a dream, but there's something that happened before that which also fits into Creepy Ketchup. In fact, that's most of the story, but it's a precursor to said dream,
right,
in my opinion. So this is verbatim what I said to you. I said, so I was going to wait until Wednesday to tell you this, but changed my mind. Let me precursor by saying I have some creepy catch-up. I'm telling you this part just in case it connects to what I'm about to tell you. So last night I went out for a late drive. I ended up at Waverly Park. Now this is in Louisville. This is the park that's on the backside of the Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Right. When you turn in to go to the sanatorium, you can go to the right and go to the park.
Yep.
Or go to the left and go up to the hill.
Yep. And they are no longer connected like they used to be. So you definitely have to go another way now. In fact, you can't even get there through the park anymore.
You can't?
No. You can jump over the thing there. Yeah. But it's now mostly to get up to the tower, the radio tower. But anyways, yeah, so a lot of it's cut off, and the golf course is now kind of in between. But anyways, so I hadn't been up there since high school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool, I want to go drive around. It was late at night. I just happened to be in the neighborhood. Bad idea. So I drive all the way through and back. It's pitch black, dark out. So the interesting thing about this is that it ends. There's no outlet here.
Right.
Okay, it's
There's
one road.
Yeah,
it's one way in, one way out. Okay, you go all the way to the end. There's trails and all that crap, and you turn around. So, anyways, it's pitch black, dark out because it was kind of like rainy that night. But the second I entered the park entrance, the temperature in my car dropped, and the heater started blowing cold air. And so immediately, one, I'm getting a little scared because I'm right now I'm driving my mother-in-law's car, and I'm like, oh my god, I broke her car, right? But what happened is that I also got a deep pit in my stomach and felt immense dread and fear. And I was like, okay, well, it is kind of spooky. It's night. Yeah. I'm by myself. But I know that when supernatural things happen, the temperature drops and things like that. And I find it funny that this beautiful Ford Focus starts blowing cold air when it's been blowing hot this whole time.
Right.
So I kept driving. And at one point, I saw what looked like a man in a white gown standing on top of one of the hills as I turned the curve. I blinked and he was gone. And it was just like out of a movie. I mean, it was just like out of a movie.
Like standing there in a hospital gown.
Yeah, standing there in a hospital gown, kind of silhouetted because it's dark. And then I blink my eyes and it's gone. And I try to look back, but I'm too scared because I'm afraid I'm going to crash the car, right? Not my car. But I go further. I'm like, okay, what else is going to happen? I see a shadow run across the road. I slam on my brakes so I don't hit whatever it is. There's nothing there. My brights are on full blast.
Yeah.
I turn this corner. There's something there. I hit the brakes. It's not there. I'm freaked out. So I go to the end of the park where the playground is. And I go and I sit there's an open parking lot, and I'm trying to take in the two things that I just saw.
Right.
And I look over at the swing set, and the middle swing is swinging, and there is no one there. The other two swings are not moving at all.
I mean, is it like a full swing or just kind of barely swinging?
In between.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not a full swing, or I would have jumped the fence into the neighborhood that was right there. But it was enough to freak me out, and it was definitely more than just
yeah. Not just like a casual wind.
No, it looked like when you're hanging with your friends and you're slightly swinging.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it looked like.
Okay.
Someone was doing. It looked like, and the swing was curved a little bit. I mean, it freaked me out because the other two were not moving, and the other swings were at a dead standstill, and I decided to get the heck out of there. So I go all the way to the end, and I turn around in the turnabout, and I begin the long drive back out of the park. And let me tell you, at this point, it seems like forever. At this point, I start to see headlights in my rear view. Now, remember what I told you. I came all the way in. There's only one way in, one way out, and I turned around and started to go back.
So was there? You mentioned you stopped in a parking lot. Mm-hmm. Was there any other car in the parking lot?
No.
Okay.
And the turnaround is literally like right there.
Right.
Like the parking lot is at the lake. You just turn around. You go down a little bit at the lake, and so either way, and there's lights. So I mean, I would see another car in the parking lot, but I don't. I see, and I'm laughing and scared at the same time because we talked about how that happened to us in Shelbyville, right? About seeing lights in our rear view, and I look behind. There's nothing, right? I turn a curb. I see headlights in the rear view. I look behind. There's nothing.
Wow.
And then no more headlights in the rear view. It happened at least 3 or 4 times total. Finally, I get towards the main road and pull to the right because I'm like, I got to let this car pass.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, maybe it just needs to pass. Nothing. And I said, screw this. And I turned around and I said, I'm going to go find this mystery car. Because there's only one way in, one way out.
Right.
I don't like being messed with. So I turned around, went all the way back through the entire thing. No car. Nothing. So needless to say, I turned around and got the heck out of there, okay? I sped out of there as fast as I could. My heart was racing, and as soon as I got back to the main road a second time and turned onto it, the feeling of fear and dread passed, and the heat started pumping from the heater again.
Wow.
Literally, the second I turned out of the park onto the main road, I felt it click on full blast.
Huh.
So fast forward to finishing the Mothman prophecies and reading some of Visitors of Lanulus, I go to bed that night. And then I then dream. So this puts me where the precursor is done.
Right.
So I dream that I'm back at Waverly Park and I'm looking for the mystery car. But what I find is the Mothman floating in the parking lot where the playground is. So I get out of the car and I hear that buzzing, fluttering noise that they all say they hear in the book, and I see the big red glowing eyes. And I tell it, I know this is just your spacesuit, but show me who you really are. Sidebar, that's a theory that we have, is that it's actually like it's a flying spacesuit or ship, so to speak, that whatever alien is using, right? So I say, show me who you really are. The Mothman lands, and its wings fold behind it, and it removes its helmet to reveal the big smiling grin of Indrid Cold. His hair was slicked back and everything.
Huh.
He begins to laugh at me maniacally, like scary, maniacally. So there are mixed stories of Indrid Cold. So all from Woody Derenberger and his family. They're the sweetest, kindest people on the planet.
Happy-go-lucky.
Everyone else, frightening.
Right.
Like he is just a trickster and is scary and evil. And if you get on Reddit and look up pictures of him, they're scary as all get out.
Right.
But he starts laughing, so I scream at him, and I say, what the F do you want from me? Fear? And Indrid says to me, no, we want you to understand. He then pushes a button on his chest, and what looks like television fuzz or snow wraps around his head. Like it's like completely around his head is this television, this fuzz, and then it clears and goes to HD, and it reveals Josh's face, your face,
my face,
your face, and here your effing face, because I was scared when I wrote this to you. I gasp in my dream and I fall to the ground and start scooting back, trying to get out of there. But you, grabs my hand and helps me up and says to me, Stefan, I am and always have been your friend, which I find is funny, which is a slight alliteration on Star Trek. So it's not exactly the same, but it's different. So you say, I am and always have been your friend, and I am and always have been all of these things. The road is going to be deep and eye-opening, and you will not be able to share most of it. Only you and I will know, though I don't even know all yet. But there is something I must tell you. It is very important that you listen very closely. This is the most important thing I will ever tell you. Josh needs you to... And then my alarm goes off. And I scream out, no! And of course my wife says, I feel you, F the alarm, right? But it was literally the most vivid dream I had ever had in my entire life. And I can still see it crystal clear. Like, I can just see it. And but yeah, I'm like, no, this happens to me all the time. Every time something super important is about to happen, my alarm goes off.
Well, I think that's the way it works, right?
Man, I don't know.
That's the way that, like, when you think about TV shows and stuff, it's always what, you know, you all you got to do is remember this one thing, and then it's like it goes to a commercial or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a cliffhanger, and then second season doesn't get picked up.
Doesn't get picked up.
Carnival, I'm talking
happens.
to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that is a crazy.
And I don't know what it means,
dream.
and I'm sad because as a podcast host, I'm like my whole thing is sharing. So it's like what am I? I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, listeners, old blanket huggers out there. I'm sorry that there's apparently some really neat stuff I'm not gonna be able to share with you.
Right. I mean, maybe you'll get another dream.
Yeah, maybe I'll be able to share it to you in a book
Yeah,
that'll be for sale, because that tends to always be what happens as well.
Maybe your dream will go on to a second season.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I want to go back out there. In fact, my roommate Paul, I told him, I said, man, as soon as we get a night, let's go drive around. I want to go look. And of course, I want us to go in Santosh too. And then, of course, just go to Waverly, because I've still never been to Waverly Hills itself.
Really?
So I'm very anxious. I mean, I've seen it from afar, but not.
They do a guided tour, and then they also do like an overnight tour, but you have to have a lot of people for that one. So,
But yeah, we'll definitely look into that. So, but yeah, so that's what I got for Creepy Ketchup.
have you noticed that our Creepy Ketchup is getting longer and longer and longer?
Longer and longer.
You know, it's like soon the show will just be us talking about what happened to us.
We'll have to fill in between, like each week you'll get 2 episodes. You'll get one of the topic and one of Creepy Ketchup.
Right.
Or of our conspiracy theories that we hold dear.
Right.
So, but yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. Let's go ahead and move to our main topic, unless you've got something else.
I wanted to start doing a thing about MUFON.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. We do. We have a new segment that we want to get to. This will always follow Creepy Ketchup. We want to talk about our sighting of the week. So we've gotten really hip and digging deep into a lot of UFO stuff. We still will always cover ghosts and hauntings and stuff, and we get a lot of that in spooky news and stuff like that. But we've been coming across a lot of UFO sightings, and the topics that we've been getting into with Mothman and Indra Cold and stuff like that. Hellier and all that. It's really piqued our interest. So we wanted to bring you guys a sighting of the week that we found on MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network, and they collect them. And so, yeah, that's what we got. So we're going to start this week. So this is sighting of the week.
Yeah, so this actually happened on 2/1, so just recently, 2020. So this comes out of England, United Kingdom, I guess that was called.
Which is funny, since our spooky news today, we talked about the RAF coming out with their UFOs.
So the kind of the report, the subject line is floating gray ball type object started off as a bright star like solid light. So the guy goes on to say that I was standing on my back porch and noticed bright white solid star-like object approximately 45 degrees in sky moving from west to south in front of me. I observed the object make a sudden but short lateral darting motion before the object made sudden stop. After approximately 5 seconds, object continued along lateral path toward my view of the moon, which was behind the light cloud cover. The object appeared to suddenly increase altitude, and at this point I was aware of a second unlit ball/cube-shaped object following behind it. It appeared to chase the illuminated object in a circular motion around my view of the moon. The illuminated object then disappeared, leaving only the unlit object in the sky, which also suddenly disappeared a few seconds later. I managed to take a sequence of photographs of the incident using a digital camera in night mode, as I knew from seeing similar objects previously, the image quality would be brighter than if filming. I also managed to stitch the images together into a short video sequence, and we'll make sure to include a link to that when we post this up on our social media platforms. So if you don't follow us, make sure you follow us there. But yeah, that's a very interesting story, and again, still recent. I mean, we talk about it. We talk about it several times that it seems like the activity kind of slumped off for a while, and then now it's picking back up. And something that I hear quite a bit in like the Mothman prophecies and things is they refer to a series of UFO encounters as a flap. Mm-hmm. And so that was a term that I was not previously aware of until I started reading Mothman prophecies. And then we also heard it mentioned in Hellier. They talked about hidden flap. Yeah, it's like a UFO flap. And so I've tried to look up and see what flap actually stands for.
It's when your belly gets big and it hangs over.
No, that's Dunlop disease.
Oh, Dunlap. Sorry.
Yeah, your belly Dunlapped over your belt.
Sorry, wrong thing.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's our sighting of the week.
Awesome. Okay, so we're getting into Stan Romanek. So let's get her done and talk about Monsieur Romanek.
Yeah.
And how we'll find out how he screwed his own pooch, like by ruining himself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be perfectly honest here. I do try to take, try to have a little bit better open mind. But when I was reading through and collecting information on this guy, I'm like, something's screaming at me that there's just something ain't right here. But I know, you and I have talked about it, and so I'm going to try to present the evidence,
right,
for everyone to make their own.
But please feel free to share your opinion.
Yeah.
That's what makes our show fun,
right?
Too.
Yeah, so.
And it's usually me sharing my opinion.
So, Mr. Stan Romanek, born 1962, currently resides within Colorado, I believe, is an ardent ufologist, a self-proclaimed alien abductee, and noted starseed.
Ooh, starseed. I wonder if that's in my book. I'm going to look it up. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see if starseed.
While you're looking it up, I'm going to continue. So, his claim to fame is the sheer breadth of evidence he has collected over the years, proving the existence of aliens, including hundreds of photos, videos, audio recordings, sweet drawings, and math equations he claims he should not know.
That just sounded like an old 80s WWF entrance. So there is no starseed in here.
What about Star-Lord from
Guardians of the Galaxy? There is seed in here. I mean, it says, I don't know. It just talks about the conscious mind. I think this is very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a little bit of a breakdown of what they mean by starseed. So, so he's most famous for what is commonly known as the Boo video.
Heck yeah, the Boo video freaked me out, dude.
Which purportedly captures an alien peeping into Romanek's window. Mm-hmm. There is, I do want to take a second to say, there's a documentary that talks about it. I think you said it's available on Amazon.
Yep.
You also get on YouTube and find bits and pieces of the documentary. Mainly the kind of the
it's
the
called
Boo,
Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story.
the Boo video and stuff. You can find that stuff on YouTube as well. So
yep, and of course parodies of those.
Yeah,
videos.
oh yeah. if you don't count the actual video as a parody.
I mean, you might be right. I don't know.
So basically, Romanek claims that he is a very important person, and that aliens have picked him specifically to bring their message to the people of Earth. Now, this is a little bit of, this is actually a common thread, I think, around a lot of different people of this sort. Mm-hmm. And when we talked about Woody Derenberger, I mean, his was the same thing. He felt like he was picked to help carry the message.
The difference between Derenberger, though, and Romanek is that Derenberger seems very humble about it. Like he never, whereas Romanek seems very,
yeah.
Like the way that I put it, that Romanek reminds me of is Napoleon Dynamite's brother.
Okay.
That's who.
Yeah.
I'm totally sweet. right? Like that's Romanek to me.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Derenberger, I mean, he didn't seek to make any money. In fact, I think the edition of his book that I have is actually an updated version from 2014 that was edited by his daughter as well as another individual.
Yeah, she wrote a follow-up as well, which I.
But the guy who did the editing, there's a post note at the end, and he says that at the time in like 76 or 75 or whatever, whenever he could get a hold of the book, there was only 6 prints or 6 copies in circulation. Right. So I mean, Derenberger didn't seek fame or fortune from his work.
I don't think any of these guys. I mean, you got Alan Greenfield and those guys as well too. I mean,
I would argue that Romanek maybe is the
Romanek's part of the YouTube generation. It's a different world. But I'm saying like some of those older guys, that are writing those books, they wanted to get that information out there.
Right. So he claims to be a frequent flyer with at least one of the many alien species that frequent our planet. He also claims to have another family, including 7 alien-human hybrid children. Like all starseeds, Stan injects a sizable amount of spirituality into his ufology and paints himself as a messiah-like figure.
Okay. So that makes a little more sense. It almost kind of fits a small bit of narrative like the Indigo Children and some things like that.
Yeah. So, Stan's aforementioned space family and space kids came as quite a shock to his wife, Lisa.
Right. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Right.
Being so distant, however, she was able to cope with his news until Stan met his space wife at an Earth convention.
Awkward.
Yeah. His space wife turned out to be a younger human woman whom Stan regularly spends private time with. Lisa, no doubt on the receiving end of a sustained gaslighting campaign, has learned to accept Stan's space wife into the cult family.
And so this is, and this is brought up in the documentary as well. And, this is the point where I'm like, man, did this dude come up with all of this just to justify an affair?
Right.
Right? This is where the skeptic in me came out.
Yeah. So, moving on to the Boo video, which is his quote-unquote claim to fame. So, the grainy but surprisingly stable, it goes on to say, this is one of the rare instances where alien footage was shot on a tripod. Video of a suspiciously immobile, expressionless alien head popping up to peek into Romanek's window carried Stan to superstardom after it appeared on Larry King Live in 2008.
And I saw that when it happened.
So you were
that's
one
what
of,
I'm saying. Like, I was one of the ones that was like, oh my gosh. We need to get a shelter. Get some canned goods. Because it's over.
I'm going to go down and buy all the MREs I can get my hands on.
I was ready to dig a hole, man.
It's like what the movie Signs when that's like the video footage of the kid's birthday party and you see the alien move.
Oh, it still gets me, dude. Still gets me.
So, it goes on to say only the head is visible. This person who wrote this said, because it's bobbing up and down on a stick. It does blink, and the mouth seems to move, but otherwise the alien is expressionless, motionless, and quite lifeless. The video and much of his evidence in general is so nakedly fake that even the most ardent ufologists tend to distance themselves from Romanek and say that he's making them look silly.
And that's not exactly true. Only the last, 10 years or so. But that first 10 years, I guess that has been about 10 years. But only the first couple years, or last couple years, because the first couple years, everybody was like, this is remarkable.
Huh.
And of course, any skeptic's gonna be able to say it's fake. And that's we've talked about it on the show before. I distrust skeptics more than I trust people that believe, because skeptics, you can find anything wrong. I can tell you exactly. Oh, that light over there, it's obviously lit by a fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, in 2008, graphics and that sort of thing from the computer aspect of the world, we were still not to the level we are today. Today, it's much easier to make a realistic-looking fake video.
Right.
Back then, even in 2008, which is not, I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago, we were still, from a graphics perspective, not, it would have appeared fake.
Right.
Had it been produced with a, CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Stan filmed a follow-up video of another alien peering into his house from a sliding door.
And that one looks even crazier. Like, it's good.
More of this motionless, expressionist alien is visible.
See, I disagree with this guy's idea of things. I thought it was very expressionful. But I mean, then again, who assumes that aliens are going to have expressions?
Yeah, well, so it's. I actually found a guy who wrote a pretty big skeptic piece. We're going to get into it later, but he has some things around, I don't know, the feasibility of aliens in general and how they've been described. But so we'll get into that in just a little bit. I'm going to be honest though. I pulled together the two articles that painted more of the skeptic's view, but still included the evidence as it's told.
Right.
So because again, when I was researching, I was like, man, it's just So. So more of the alien is visible, including the head, neck, chest, and arm, and some of the body. He goes on to say, before it awkwardly slides out of sight without swinging its arms or turning its head or visibly taking any steps of any kind, Stan runs to the window in an effort to look for the creature, but never gets an angle from outside the window. So then we have other evidence. Stan is most noteworthy for his massive collection of photos, video, audio recordings, and more in his quest to prove the existence of aliens. He's an interpreter and storyteller, putting plenty of effort into planning into each piece without much thought into convincing it will look. So this is basically saying that all of his stuff that he has is fake.
Yeah, so it basically implies that everything that he's found, he doesn't care whether it looks fake or not. He considers it evidence.
Right, exactly.
Which we are definitely taught to use a better eye.
Right. I mean, it's the I think you do something to your credibility when you blindly accept something as the truth.
But I mean, if something, like Darren Berger or Romanek did indeed happen, I mean, I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. It's always about perspective.
Yeah.
So,
and where you are with your ability to accept what's happening at that point in time in your life, right?
Yep.
But I mean, it goes on to say that, like, for example, most of his video work is low definition, with a shaky camera. Most of his photos can be easily explained with natural phenomena or flat-out Photoshop fakery. Again, like I said, in those days Photoshop has definitely gotten better, but you could tell when something was Photoshopped. Yeah. So it's, if you accept obvious fakery as the evidence, then again it impacts and it hurts your overall credibility.
For sure.
So. It goes on to say that many of the online eyewitnesses are likely just Stan himself posing as various people online to up his credibility.
Sure.
But I mean, there's no way to prove that unless you had those accounts and you could somehow contact them. So then we get into how he really messed himself up.
Yeah, and this is talked about on the documentary. And this is what I was talking about earlier, was that, like, any little bit of credibility that he had before this, it's gone.
It's gone.
But to him, and we'll talk about what happened, to him, this was all planted to make him look less credible.
Right. So in 2014, Stan was arrested on charges of possessing and distributing child pornography. Yeah. In 2017, he was found guilty of possession, but not guilty of distribution.
Either way.
Either way. I mean, he's registered now as a sex offender, and he basically can't use the internet or a computer without supervision. And so, back to your, from a conspiracy theory point of view, if he was telling the truth, if he was getting the word out there as it relates to aliens, and somebody wanted to shut him down and basically remove his ability to continue to spread the word, this certainly did that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and then, like you said, I haven't had a chance to watch all of the documentary, but he does say that all of this stuff was planted on him, and again, for the effort of trying to silence him.
Yeah.
So he made a documentary, as we've talked a little bit about before. So in 2013, Stan starred in a documentary that chronicles what Stan describes as his long history with UFOs. It says here that the film appears to be a simple accounting of many of the more notable events or videos or photos that Stan has kept as the evidence to speak for itself. About halfway through, it starts to get into Stan really just talking about himself and all of his...
It does. It goes from being an objective to being weird. And that includes all the videos in the very beginning and all that stuff. Like, it just, it becomes cultish.
Yeah. So it says here that, some of the highlights from the film is that many clips of Stan undergoing some astoundingly unconvincing hypnosis in order to deep dive into his memories. Comically, he often ignores the questions of the hypnotist and instead blurts out their pre-prepared story he went there to tell that day.
I agree with that.
In one video where Stan claims to have captured footage of a strange light that burns out his video surveillance camera, it's obvious that someone is shining a high-powered flashlight down onto the lawn. That light appears, that is turned on, moves from the lawn to the camera with visible handshaking and all, and envelops the camera before it mysteriously stops recording.
I mean, when you're, the thing is I didn't feel that when I saw it, right? And so when you're looking at something with a skeptic's eye, you're going to find everything wrong, right? And I was looking at it from a believer's eye, so I was able to believe everything. So it's like, where in the middle, how would one have felt?
Right. So I wonder if you were to go back and watch it with a skeptic's eye, would you accept everything you had seen from a believer's perspective?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely thinking about watching it again.
So it says that at one point, Stan claims to have been riding his bike to work when he was confronted by a van full of 4 obviously paramilitary men who intend to intimidate him into silence. A fight breaks out, and Stan describes his sweet fighting moves.
Yes.
This sounds like Napoleon Dynamite. Including how he used the bicycle chain as a weapon that allowed him to easily dispatch his attackers before they flee.
Well, what's interesting, and I hope we cover this one day, it's on our topic list, but it's Stardust Ranch.
Oh.
So not Skinwalker, but Stardust Ranch. This dude, and Brad and I talked about it once before, this dude claims to have gotten a freaking machete and a samurai sword and cut these aliens up as they attacked his house. Like, he would cut them and then they would dissolve. Like, dude, his story is insane. You think he had sweet moves? Yeah. Wait till you see this dude at Stardust Ranch, and there's pictures of him, and he's like, whoa, you don't want to mess with this dude.
It says that fellow ufologists reflect on an occasion when they were attending a social event in Stan's home when he spotted a young girl in a jumpsuit standing at the end of his driveway in the rain. He snapped a picture on a mobile device and showed it to all in attendance, who assured the viewer that the photo was amazing and super convincing. But just as he was about to move the photo to his computer, the aliens deleted it from his device, robbing the world of his most convincing evidence yet.
Of course, yes, the skeptic side of me is going, but of course, convenient.
Right.
But then, the believer side is, yeah, that's what happens. They don't want you to know.
Well, that's what, it's like when we get into talking about Ingrid Cole, we're going to get into this one more, but some of the things that is described in Visitors from Lanulos, like we know scientifically to not be true. And so, it's like a weird rabbit hole where you're like, okay, part of me wants to say, well, do we know? Because we've never been there.
Yeah, like when he talks about Saturn.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The fact that they're farming on Saturn.
Yeah.
So, but I have never been to Saturn and I don't really know. But, so all I have to go off of is NASA's pictures from their satellite. So, if I start going down that path, then that means I'm throwing out everything that scientifically I believe in to trust a man who said that there are flowing rivers on Venus.
Right.
So it comes to a point where you kind of have to just throw it up in the air and say, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, welcome to flat earthers, okay? That's exactly their thing is they're like, I haven't been up to the sky to see it curve, so therefore I have to believe it's flat because that's what my eyes see, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like, goo.
Yeah, so... all right, so this comes from a website, fxsupply.com. This is from Steve Biggs, who is the president of a supply company for FX. So, movies making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wrote this really good skeptic article, if you will.
Yeah, which we'll post the article as well for people to see.
And but there's a section here that I really want to touch on, which is kind of his thoughts around aliens in general. So he says that large-headed aliens from outer space don't exist. Little men with big eyes and small bodies like this have never been seen, and I'll give you 2 irrefutable reasons. First, a tiny body just can't support that massive head. Gravity just won't allow it. I worked on the E.T. shows for Universal, and I can tell you about this. First, E.T.'s center of gravity makes him fall face first onto the ground. We always had to clamp the guy to the table. The same thing is true with all these aliens. They have legs, but they can't walk around nor even stand. If one of those sneezed, the mass of the head would knock him on his butt.
You don't know alien structure or anatomy. And see, once again, this is all stuff that assumes that they are essentially built like a human's build, right? Or based off of the laws of our world.
Right. So, E.T. had 2 other design problems. His arms were too long, but he had to use muscle to lift them, unless we wanted to drag his arms across the ground. The other problem was his neck extension. It just doesn't occur in nature to extend vertebrae. This is to say nothing about the amount of muscle needed to lift that heavy head. E.T. is an excellent example of a hoax. It has the permanent imprint of bad design. Nature has the permanent imprint of exceptional design. Second, and this is the most important thing, it has to do with the birth canal. Sorry, folks, but it is impossible for a tiny body like those to carry a big old head like that in the womb and give birth to it. Again, assuming that they give birth.
Give birth like we do, right? Not an egg.
Right. Or spontaneous or cloned or who knows.
Who knows?
So humans are just barely large enough to pass through the pumpkin-sized head through the birth canal, and sometimes that doesn't even work. Our little UFO people have heads that contain more mass than their bodies. Sorry, the math just doesn't add up. And lastly here, you may argue that in space travel, you don't need a large body because you are weightless. Okay, got me on that one. But there is now a bigger problem with that theory. It's okay in outer space, but when these creatures are on our planet, they've got to walk around like the rest of us. We know that our planet has gravity and a lot of it for a little guy. These creatures aren't used to that much gravity. It will smash them like a bug on a rock. If these were truly from outer space, they would be riding around in little wheelchairs with a big head support. In fact, now that I think of it, why are these gray guys always naked? Certainly, with all the high tech, they would be fashion conscious. So
two things I'm going to say on that. One, there is a lot of theory that what we see is a spacesuit. We don't know. We think of things mechanically as opposed to organically.
Right.
That it may be some sort of organic spacesuit.
Well, so to give credence to that, if you think about the movie Fire in the Sky, there's a part where he gets loose on the ship, and he's wandering around, and he finds the big-eyed, lanky, and he turns it around, and it is just a suit that the aliens wear.
The other thing is, and this one's going to be goofy, but there are more than just images of the Greys as short, big-headed, blah, blah. A lot of them are tall and skinny as well, so that's them on their ship. They step off, gravity hits them, crunches them down. Okay? That's what happens. You're welcome.
What was that?
I am the tallest.
What was it was a He-Man character that had the legs that would spring,
boing,
and the guy would...
Boing. So, but who knows, man?
Yeah.
We don't know. And once again, we don't know. We can only think of our nature.
Right.
We don't know how gravity would affect something else.
Well, I mean, presumably they've maybe perfected some sort of an anti-gravity suit that allows them
we're
to
already working on something for Mars because Mars has different gravity, right? We're having to think about that. And then there's a show, The Expanse, and I know it's sci-fi. They talk about the people that have grown up in space and how their muscles have lengthened and stretched. And I was looking at one, I was like, God, it looks like some of the long, skinny versions of the aliens that you see.
Which is also, and just kind of throw this out there, one of the the creepy catch-up things that I've had that I didn't mention before was I had a dream where Ingrid asked me if I had ever considered that the Greys are androids.
Yeah.
So then it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. Yeah, because then they would have the power to hold themselves up.
Right.
What does it matter? Interesting. That's what I'm saying. It's like you can't say 100% here's how you can fix, say that this isn't. We have to... I don't know. We wouldn't have a paranormal show if we didn't want to believe, right?
Exactly.
So, so go listen to your Jesus podcast if you want to hear something else. I don't know. But so Stan Romanek, huh?
Yeah.
He's so I wanted to say, just in case you are somewhere where you're not on our social media and you don't see that link. So this guy, Steve Biggs, he wrote about this and he talks a lot about Stan Romanek, and it's www.fxsupply.com/features/romanek.html. So check that out there if you want to see his whole thing, because he really gets into Romanek as well.
Yeah. He gets into the thought behind it being a puppet and how it could be a puppet and how it could be a puppet and still have its eyelids move and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a really good read from a skeptic's perspective.
Yeah, because, if you know anything about puppetry, especially like you look at Dark Crystal or things like that, where you have these big Henson puppets that have multiple moving parts, you know that it takes more than one person. And you tell me that this guy was able to afford animatronics back then?
A simple little servo that you pull out of a remote control truck.
But is this guy that intelligent? That's the question. One of the reasons the skeptics hate him is because of how ignorant and dumb he is.
Maybe it's an act. What I read somewhere that the guy who plays what's the Get Her Done guy?
He
actually he's like a master's degree from Yale or something.
Yeah, he is. He's
he plays an idiot on TV.
I don't know.
So I'm just saying.
Well, we got to get moving on. So I want to get into our listener story.
Yep.
So one of the cool things that we've done is not only have we reached out to the Haunted History of Kentucky and things like that and getting some really good ghost stories, we've been hitting up some UFO and alien boards and groups and stuff on Facebook as well, because we wanted to get some listener stories from folks on there. And we've been getting a few. So one of the ones we had come into our email comes from
Christine Reed.
Yep. And so this is her story. And so reminder, if we don't find you first, you can email us at fearscapepodcast@gmail.com. That's fearscapepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your story, even a line or two, and we'll read it. Whether it's a UFO sighting, whether it's a ghost haunting, whether it's a demon, a cryptid, I don't care. All of the above. If you were abducted, I want to know.
If you went on an alien spaceship and there was a demon, a cryptid, and a ghost playing poker, let us know about it.
Let us know. We want to know the punchline. But go ahead, and here's the story from Christine.
I had a sight back in '89, early 90s. Not exactly sure that year. I was about 10 or 11 years old. I had a daytime sighting of a silver, metallic, shiny saucer right above my house. It was so close that I could see ridges around the saucer. It had made no noise, just hovered there. I was with my neighbor friend, and she had went to get her mom, but by the time she got back, it was gone. It was the most fantastic experience I've ever had, and to this day, I'm now 40, feels like it was yesterday.
So yeah, I mean that puts her at our age.
Yeah,
exactly. So I can relate to that because my first sightings, were in the mid '80s.
And I'd like to give a shout out. This is actually, I think, maybe our first listener story from outside the U.S. This comes from us from Canada.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yep,
yeah,
from Windsor,
very cool.
Windsor, Canada.
Well, that's over by where I grew up. So Windsor is literally 45 minutes north of Toledo. You cross the bridge at Detroit, and that's Windsor.
Wow.
And I'll be up there at the end of the month.
That's cool.
So I'm going to track you down, Christine. No, I'm just joking.
Just joking. But yeah, thanks for sending that in to us. That's really awesome.
That was really great. And keep sending those in. We want to know more. And definitely, Christine, if you've had any other sightings or if something happens again, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know, and we can point you towards some resources and some things like that.
Yep.
So, once again, fearscapepodcast@gmail.com. It's a place to be.
Place to be.
Be
there or be square.
Yeah, be there or be square. I always hate leaving. I'm not ever ready to go.
This is the most exciting thing of my week that I look forward to every week.
Aw, thanks. Yeah, me too. Me too. No, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to get out of here. But we love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to share the podcast wherever you are at, any social media that you have, especially if you follow us, which you can follow us at FearScape Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can get on there, speak to us, share stories there at those places, as well as send in any pictures or anything you want us to check out. All that stuff. But follow us there, share our podcast, and then anywhere that you listen to the podcast, especially places like Apple Podcasts and stuff like that, anywhere that you can rate or review the podcast, please do. Really that helps us get noticed a little bit more, and we are so thankful because we know that you already have. Our numbers have been doubling, and we are so very thankful to everyone that tunes in and shares this podcast. We have fun, but we take this stuff very seriously.
Very much so.
And we love you guys. So we're going to get out of here again. I know, once again, I said I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I feel like David Tennant in Doctor Who, and he's like, I'm not ready to go yet. And but anyways, but this has been Stefan, and I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
Remember, blanket huggers, hold that blanket extra tight, and we'll see you next week. Good night, folks.
Good night.
I'm so glad you were able to join us for that horrifying discussion. I hope they didn't frighten you too much. Tune in next week for even more research into the nightmarish and haunting creeps and spooks that we tell ourselves don't exist, but we know they do. Make sure you have your blankets, that you hold them extra tight. Next time on FearScape.